Lauren and Lara, welcome to the show.
Hi.
How do you guys know each other?
You go first.
She was my fan.
Really?
I was.
That's what you told me.
Big fan. Love your work.
How
Lauren
long ago was that?
7 years ago, 8?
Maybe even
More.
8 or 9.
Yeah. So Lauren was a big time influencer, one of the first Gymshark influencers, I must say. And I just followed the vibe. I was just getting into fitness, and then Lauren was just like killing it on Instagram with like all the big names like Grace Beverly and stuff. And I was just like a fan. And then Lauren just went and did great things after. And then I met her for the first time at an expo event where I was fangirling. I queued up to take a photo with her.
How long ago was that? Like 3? Was that
6 years.
okay?
Yeah,
Yeah.
2018 around then.
We look so different as well.
Yeah.
Actual babies.
And now we're here.
Yeah, but there was another part of the story, wasn't there?
So, well, yeah. So then Lauren went and did entrepreneurship. Like she started becoming a businesswoman. She had her leggings thing. We'll get into that a little bit later if you want. And then Lauren went and started her own business. And then I was like, wow. And then I started growing my own social media on LinkedIn. And then Lauren found me at some point. I think I had around 20, 40K. And then what happened?
So I reached out to her and I just remember thinking her graphics are really nice on LinkedIn. And I needed to refresh my personal brand graphics, visuals. But I saw Lara was doing that really well. And I do not have a graphic design bone in my body. And so I remember thinking, maybe she's offering this as a service because I saw you had an agency then. And so I remember reaching out to you, but I don't deal with any of the hiring. And I have someone on my team who takes care of hiring and working with agencies and contractors. So I just said, hey, this girl's going to reach out to you. And then I guess...
Yeah. So Lauren was like, you already know, like Lara, yeah, because she DM'd me on Instagram because we already had a story where I was like, love you, Lauren, adding her on my Instagram stories. And she was like already familiar with me. So she was like, hey, I see that you're like, you follow me, you've been following me for a while. I think you would be a really good fit to come work with us. We're looking for a social media person. And I remember that day I looked at my phone, I was at home I ran to my dad's office and I was like, oh my God, Dad, I think I'm going to get a job because I was like freelancing, trying to start my agency, like unemployed, all these things with a graduate, I just finishing uni. And then you were like, yeah, just reach out to Noor and she'll just tell you what's up. And then I reached out to Noor and she was like, yeah, sorry, we only take people from Inside or Impact School, which was Lauren's business. And then it was a blessing in disguise because then I went and built a personal brand and now obviously we're collaborating in different ways.
Nice. I saw the picture on LinkedIn yesterday of you talking at your event, I believe.
Yeah.
And that's why you're here in London.
Well, no, I was in London anyway, but we just decided while we were here, let's throw an event because we run events for our clients. We're trying to do them every 4 months, private clients, but we just use it as an opportunity because the venue said, hey, we have a room for 30 or a room for 100. So like, okay, if it's a room for 100, then I guess we better fill the room. Nice.
And for all the stuff we're going to get to, I want to rewind to the start of your, I guess, career, which started in asset management, I believe.
So 10 years ago, actually more than 10 years ago now, I started an Instagram fitness account because I had lost a ton of weight, but I'd done it in a really unhealthy way because I Googled one day, how do you lose weight? Because this was back before fitness influencers. This was back before there was really good advice. And it was mainly just articles from like Cosmopolitan or Women's Health. And it was just very much diet culture. And so I was burning more calories than I was consuming every day, not realizing that the body burns calories at rest. So I was literally eating 500 calories a day and going on the cross trainer burning 600-700 because I thought that was a calorie deficit, eating 100 or 200 calories a day. It was terrible. It was really, really bad. So I lost a ton of weight, obviously. And then I became really unhealthy because I was super skinny. And I found on Instagram there was this community of women who were actually trying to be healthy and get into really good shape while loving their body. And I really fell in love with it. But I started following it and some of my friends would say like, oh yeah, I saw you following those Instagram accounts. Because do you remember back in the day, you could see other people's activity on Instagram? Like, what is this? In 2014, you could see what everybody was doing. There was this different tab. They don't have that now. And so I made another Instagram account because I wanted to engage with these women who were trying to achieve the same goals as me. But back then I wasn't secure enough in my own goals to just be like, well, I don't care what you guys think of me. I'm doing this anyway. So I started this private fitness Instagram. And then at the same time, that was my final year of high school, senior school, sixth form, whatever you call it here in the UK. And I was doing my A-levels, trying to get into uni. And then at the same time, I had the goal of going and working for a year in asset management. So I was doing it all at the same time. So I did like 8 months in asset management. I quit before the full year was up because all I was doing was this totally monotonous, boring, clicking buttons, spreadsheets, and it just wasn't me. And I realized I'm 100% unemployable. I need to find a way to create my own business. So I'd already got into Bath.
And you must have been 18.
I was 18, yeah.
Yeah.
I was the youngest person that they'd ever employed.
This is quite like, even at that age, you're like, seems like you're doing loads of stuff, like super ambitious.
Yeah.
Why that was?
Yeah, so my younger brother has epilepsy and he is in a wheelchair. And so I literally saw someone have their freedom stripped from them at birth. And so I don't know why, but ever since I was really young, I wanted to make the most out of my life because I saw that he couldn't. And I also saw that my parents, they were not able to enjoy their life anymore either because they were spending so much time taking care of him. And so in some ways I felt like I need to make the most of everything that I'm doing because he can't, and I need to essentially like live his life for him. And then over time, I just genuinely fell in love with it. And so now I don't think that drives me as much as it used to, honestly, but in the beginning it for sure did. Whereas now I just couldn't live any other way. I mean, I love what I do and the freedom that comes along with it, being able to genuinely make a lot of money, change a lot of people's lives, and do whatever I want to do whenever I want to do it. That's just unbeatable to me.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So we got up to the point where we have just we left asset management to go to Bath Uni.
Yeah.
But then you also didn't, it was like 8 months at Bath Uni.
It was, it was a year and a half.
Oh, okay, nice.
Yeah.
So longer than that asset management.
Yeah.
So you realized you couldn't be employed, and then you also realized that you didn't want to study.
Well, while I was at uni, I already had my fitness business.
Got it, okay.
So,
you started that before the asset management. That was
Yeah.
the Instagram.
Well, even up until like 4 years ago, I didn't see it as a business. Even though I had a lot of employees and team members, I just kind of saw it as something that I was doing. I never really saw it directly as a business. It was just because it all happened organically, right? I never created a business plan. I never thought I'm going to do this and then I'm going to do that and then I'm going to get into this market and that market. Through social media, through building a personal brand, it just happened naturally and it happened organically. And I think that has its pros and its cons because, of course, it meant that I was always the one driving the ship. But at the same time, it meant that I could pivot and change as and when I wanted to. So there was no intentionality behind it. So even when I look back, it kind of all feels like it happened all at the same time, honestly. But that's purely because what I was doing is I was following the things that were interesting to me at that moment. And I realized just because I'm interested in it, that means that other people will be interested in it too. And then I launched products, programs, coaching, agency services around those things.
And it was Instagram was the first platform that you invested in.
Yeah. I mean, this is like 10 years ago though.
Yeah.
You know? So it feels like so long ago now. Instagram and then YouTube as well.
At the same time as the Instagram thing.
Yeah. You were doing blogs with your dad and fitness stuff.
Yeah, but that was about 5 years later or 4 years later.
Got it.
After I started.
And it was at this time that you were like the Gymshark ambassador as well.
Gymshark happened 4 years probably after I started.
Got it.
Yeah. So I mean it was 3 posts a day, every single day, 7 days a week. I did not miss a single day for 6 years straight.
No.
So I only started making money from it 3 years in.
3 years of posting 3 times a day.
Every day. Without fail.
Nice.
Religiously.
What made you want to do that so strictly? Like, what was that? Was it like someone told you to post 3 times a day?
Oh, man, it's so long ago. Like, it's really hard for me to answer because I can't remember because it was so long ago. I just loved it. I loved it.
I thought like it was your first year and you went straight into Gymshark. I didn't realize it was 4 years.
Yeah. Straight. Yeah, I mean, I started at age 17. Right? And I was doing it with nobody knowing. Not a single one of my friends, nobody knew. My parents didn't even know. They would see me making these like protein things, you know, in their kitchen as a kid. And then I would make a post in the morning to hype people up. then I would actually share the recipe and then I'd make another post saying, did you see the thing? And so I just loved it. I genuinely enjoyed it. And I had no pressure, right? Because I was so young and there was no one else doing it. So I could make a post and I could get, I mean, in the beginning, it was like 2,000 people would like that thing. But that was a lot. And then obviously a few years later, it would be like on average 10,000 people like a post on Instagram. And that for me was average. That wasn't good. That was average. Whereas now it just doesn't work like that anymore. Can you imagine? It was so different back then.
So the first like asset we built with this audience on Instagram initially, and then with the first time you were able to monetize that, was that through essentially sponsors, people paying you to advertise to the audience?
So this one company sent me an email saying, hey, we'll pay you £350 if you show yourself making this delivery box of this healthy food. And I just couldn't believe it.
So epic.
And that was when I finally told my parents what I was doing. And my dad was like, are you sure that's legal? Because this is what? This must have been now 7 years ago, before this was even a concept, before people were doing this. This was like before influencer marketing was even a terminology.
And how many followers did you have then, do you reckon? Like 10,000 or?
25,000?
Got it.
But 25,000 followers 7 years ago is like 500,000 followers now.
Oh, really?
It's really different now because I have tons of clients who have 1 million plus followers and they're making 5-6 grand a month. Back then, if you had that many followers just from brand deals alone, you'd be making 500,000 a month.
Yeah. What are your thoughts if someone's like watching this and they want to start on a social platform? Do you think Instagram is the one? Question for both of you.
It just depends what you're trying to do, I think. Who's your audience? Who's your avatar? Because the question then becomes, who do you want to be a hero to? And so if you're trying to target mothers or something, then sure, Instagram, Facebook is great. If you're trying to be in front of SaaS founders, Twitter, X, LinkedIn as well, I guess.
Got it. Okay, that makes sense for you. You were like in fitness, like very visual area first.
I had zero intention to create a business, zero, on Instagram when I first began. I was 17.
So why were you doing it?
Because I wanted to connect with other women who were trying to be healthy. That was it. That was literally it. If I had never gone on the fitness journey, I would not be sat here right now. So there was never any intentionality behind anything I do up until a few years ago.
I think that's why you're such a good marketer naturally, because you never went into marketing with the idea to sell. You went into marketing, storytelling, and connecting with people.
To connect with people.
Which is essentially what marketing really is emotions and connection.
Yeah.
And purpose, which you had. So then you start helping people to connect with you, and then you start building new things, and then found the journey to build a business, and then you're now helping others do the same.
Yeah, there's a big difference, I think, between building an audience and building a community and creating ultimately a movement. And I think in the beginning, I wanted to build a community, which then became a movement. And then I shifted into building an audience once I was seen as an authority. But that's a very, looking back, strategic way of doing it. Because in the beginning, when you aren't an authority figure, because you're just going through your own journey, all you can do is create a community. Because you cannot be the go-to authority figure in that space because you haven't done nothing. Whereas over time, I realized, wow, there's a lot of amazing people here. How can I move them towards the common outcome, which is going to be better for everybody, and allow them to actually get what they're here for? So that's when I created this movement, which was all about helping women become strong, both physically and mentally. That was years. This is years ago. I'm talking now. Like, I'm not even in fitness at all anymore, but it's part of just my everyday routine, right? And then finally after that, there were so many people who were embarking on this movement that they saw me as an authority figure and they wanted to get help and support from me, which is where I became very, very successful with selling ebooks and selling coaching packages, and ultimately then moving into helping other people do the same thing.
Yeah. So I want to talk about the switch that happened from fitness to business. And so how many years ago was that?
Between 5 and 6 years ago.
And why?
So there was this year where a lot of the companies that were sponsoring fitness influencers, they stopped paying as much as they used to, because this was the rise of the Love Island times, where there was a lot of people who were growing these massive audiences very, very quickly and becoming more like mainstream celebrity influencers, as whatever you want to call it. And so big brands would start sponsoring those guys instead. And what was interesting was that because they were putting their budgets towards those bigger influencers, they took it away from the micro influencers. And as a marketer now, looking back, that was a very, very poor move on their part, because I know, and I'm sure you guys know, that a lot of times those guys cannot sell anything. But the brand recognition, right, the brand identity, it just depends on the strategy of the company, I guess. But when it all came down to it, I remember I was in LA, and one of my friends, she had a really, really big audience, and she had planned this whole itinerary for us to go and do all these activities. And I was there on my laptop like, okay, well, I have all these clients that I need to actually be able to serve. And she was like, what do you mean clients? I was like, customers. She's like, what do you mean customers? What are you selling? She's like, brands? And I'm like, no. I mean like clients who are paying me for me to deliver coaching to them. And it was so interesting because she had never heard of the concept of a funnel. She'd never heard of the concept of having an email list. She didn't know any of that stuff. So I just showed her plain and simple what I was doing because she was interested, and I just thought, well, I might as well just show her, because hey, if she uses the same funnel platform that I'm using, I'll get $33 a month passive income. Yes. So I gave it to her, and she launched this thing, and she made 50 grand by launching it within the first week when she launched it while we were still there on that trip together. And I was like, okay, cool. Helped a few other friends with this as well. Some of them had way bigger audiences. They launched it on their YouTube channel. These guys now ended up generating multiple 7-figure businesses from this thing. And I didn't think anything of it because I just thought, well, cool, I'm helping my friends. And then a few years later, I remember, because I don't know if you know who Iman Ghazi is, but he's been a friend of mine for however many years, like going all the way back, 8-9 years, ever since the beginning. And I saw him launch a personal branding course, and I was like, what's this guy doing? This is before he was who he is now. And he had maybe 20,000 followers on Instagram, and I'm over here with like 80,000 followers thinking I'm so cool. And I'm like, he's talking about how to monetize on Instagram and sell products relating to your personal brand. I was like, I've been doing this with my friends for years. Why don't I just do the same thing? So I threw together this course and I launched it on a webinar, and I generated 20K, which wasn't a lot, but it was like, wow, people are actually interested in this. And it was the easiest sales I've ever made in my life. And so that must have been 5 or 6 years ago. And then ever since that occasion, I then ramped that up, and then I tried a few different things. I had an online fitness business, coaching business. And then I realized, you know what, at the end of the day, all of this is ultimately the same thing, but it's under my personal brand. And so then now in the last year with Scale Systems, we're really just focusing on building a company brand, not everything just under my personal brand. And then that's essentially where we are now over 5 years later.
Got it. So actually, I want to talk about the business today a bit later on. So we'll save that for later.
So wait, how did you know how to build a funnel when everybody else was just like an influencer and relying on sponsored deals? How did you find out about that thing? Because it wasn't through university, because at that time you're still university.
Yeah, not from uni, definitely not. Yeah. So I remember I was on the train going to this job in asset management when I was 18, and I heard this podcast about how to get online fitness coaching clients, and I'd never thought about doing online fitness coaching, other than I saw Rob Lipsett doing it. And I kind of clocked in my head, well, Rob does that. And I see him tell people to apply to work with him on his Instagram. And these guys are talking about how to get online fitness coaching clients. Yeah. And they said the email list is the number one most important thing. So what I always do when I hear a new concept is or a person that I like what they're all about, I take that concept or I take that name and I type it into the podcast app, even since back then. And so I just type like email list. And I found all these marketing podcasts like Smart Passive Income by Pat Flynn, Amy Porterfield, and all these people who are kind of OGs in this space. John Lee Dumas, all these guys who I then ended up interviewing them all from my own podcast like a year later. And so I just thought I can learn from them like that. And then I was so lucky because some guys who run these 10-figure fitness businesses, they invited me out to their mastermind in America. And I had no idea what is a mastermind. I didn't even know that business coaching was a thing. And so I just flew there and they were talking all these CPA and CPL and whatever all this stuff was. And I had no idea what they're talking about. And they're turning around to me like, wait, you're telling me that you have this online audience and you could just sell stuff to them? And I was like, yeah. Because this was before social media marketing. What it is now was what it was. And so I think I just didn't really realize how lucky I was to get into doing all of that right at the time that I did.
I want to try and break this down. So it seems like what you've done really well over the past decade is first build the audience, initially in fitness and then now like in business, personal brand. So that's like the first thing you've done really well. And the second thing you've done really well is also then able to make money from it. So I know Lara's also good at both of these things. So I want to talk about the first thing, which is like building the audience. And so open to both of you, like, what do you think are the crucial things if someone's listening to this now and they want to build an audience on any platform, video, written or image? Like, what do you think is important?
I really like what Lauren said earlier, and you said it in your amazing today event. You were like, who do you want to be a hero to? And that's essentially what picking a niche is. Like, it's not picking a niche in marketing, digital marketing. It's like, what skill do you have right now, and who can you be with that? And then you portray that. The problem with building audiences right now, people go pick a niche, like, oh, I want to be SEO marketer. And then all they do is talk about SEO in like a really bad way, pick their pillars, and then they forget who they're talking to. They're just giving information with value. They're giving value, but there's no true value. There's no community building. There's nothing behind that. So the way I did it was I picked my niche, which was marketing, but I also picked who I wanted to be. I looked at businesses like Stephen Bartlett's, like Eamon Gaji's, like anyone else. I picked 10 people that I really loved. And I was like, how can I have reverse engineered what they've done? And how can I become what they are to me in the next 2 years? So I picked, like, they're charismatic. They give a lot of value. They're very well versed in what they do. So, and they were building in public. So they were learning in public. Eamon Gaji did that so well. So did Stephen Bartlett. So I started doing the same. And then I started building a community, which then transitioned to like a massive audience and now like a big following.
Would you agree with that?
From my perspective, building the audience, there's two ways to do it. Either you can be the person sat on the couch next to someone and you're going through the journey with them, or you are the authority figure and you're the one that people are coming to because of your expertise. And so depending on who you are, then the strategy is totally different. So for me, in the beginning days, I was building that community vibe because I didn't have the authority. I didn't have that expertise. But as I got those reps in, I could actually be that authority figure. And now that's what I have, is that I have an audience of people that see me as an authority. And with that content comes sharing strategies from your time in the trenches, proven stuff which you know works. Whereas obviously if you don't have that expertise, you can't do that because it's like you're just talking from ChatGPT. I see so many people make the mistake right now where they clearly just go into ChatGPT and they say, hey, write me a post about this topic. And you can tell that they have no idea what they're talking about. So if I'm honest though, I don't think I'm the best expert when it comes to building audience. I'm really good at monetizing audience. Like I'm probably one of the very, very best when it comes to actually monetizing audiences. Building audiences though, I'd say, you're much stronger than that. And there are people that are much better than me. But we work with massive brands like Founder, Humble Trader. I mean, tons of big players with massive audiences because they have the audience and then they don't monetize as good as I believe they could. And so that's where I step in.
Okay, let's do one more question on the building audience, then we're going to talk about the fun part. So that's like the theory. I like the theory you shared. Tactically, what should someone do if they want to build an audience?
They need to pick something they're good at. Like Lauren said, like you need to have that trenches experience so people can validate that can trust you. You need to be, to build a personal brand, you need to be known, liked, and trusted. To be known, you have to educate people. To be liked, you have to show storytelling. And to be trusted, you have to show that you actually have social proof in what you've done. The problem with a lot of beginners when they go into, like Lauren said, ChatGPT, they'll write me a personal branding step by step how to build it when they have 0 followers. So there's no trust. You have to spend time actually doing the thing. So even if you're a student, you can talk about what social media marketing strategies Pretty Little Thing are using. And then you get your first client through that. Then you work with that first client. You get the results. You have social proof. You talk about that. You kind of like increase it. And then through that, you use the vehicle, which is your work, and then storytelling as the main asset for you building your brand. You've done that so well with you. You're using a lot of trending topics as well on the platforms that work. So you have to identify trends and you have to identify what makes you unique. So like, what's your unfair advantage? It can be, if you're a student and you're working, that's an unfair advantage because not a lot of students are working at the same time. So it's like being able to identify what's working, what you can use, and how you can leverage every single thing around you.
And then on my side, so the clients that I see into the most, who we typically are working with is either they have an audience and they want to monetize it better, or they're a legit expert in what they do and they really don't have an audience. And so an example would be someone who has 5 healthcare clinics and now they want to have a certification online, and so they need to be able to generate more leads online. And so what we've seen that works really well for them is a strategy that we get them to deploy is segmenting their content into 3 groups. So one style of content is designed to reach more people. So this is top of the funnel content. And when those people are coming through, you need to ask yourself, why should someone stop scrolling and listen to me right now? So you use an authority intro for that, or like a cocktail party intro. So if someone was introducing me at a cocktail party to their friend, they'd be like, hey, this is Lauren, she did, and then boom, insert something which is like kind of wanky, but but it gets people to listen to you. So for example, I've helped 2,000 plus people overcome whatever it is, or I've sold 5,000 books about XYZ area, or I sold my first business at the age of 34 for 7.5 million. These are just examples, right? None of those are true for me, but those are examples which would get someone to actually pay attention to you, because if someone's never seen you before, they're not just going to stop scrolling when you're talking at them and giving them advice. So for this first style of content, the top of the funnel content, to actually get people to pay attention to you and to want to follow you, they need to have that perspective. Oh, I like this person and they have a high believability score. So Ray Dalio has this concept, which is believability score. So when he's at board meetings, he ranks based upon who is talking, how much you should listen to them. So if the CFO of one of his companies is there and they're talking about P&Ls and how we should allocate funds, they have a believability score of 10. Whereas if the head of marketing is there and they're talking about how to deploy funds, and the marketer's like, I need more money over for my advertising. Well, potentially this guy doesn't have all the context about the entirety of the company, so his believability score is going to be lower. So in that one specific conversation, who's going to be getting more of the attention? It's the CFO, right? And so the same concept applies when it comes to social media, except we have to consider the fact that on social media, there's literally millions and millions and millions of people creating content now. So the believability score, in order for us to get it, we need to make sure that people will listen to us. So we have to write a list of things that make people that have no idea who we are listen and pay attention to us. So anyone who's starting out, I would encourage you to list those things down. And if you're brand new, then you have to talk from the sense that you're going through this journey alongside of other people. But that's the first type of content. The second type is there to actually get people who already follow you to turn them into leads. Because your LinkedIn went down the other day, right? My Instagram has gone down for day. Facebook, it happens to everybody, right? Platforms can change just like that. And so if you're just relying on one platform, then there's massive single channel risk. So what we need to do is we need to make sure that we get them off the platform and actually into our email list, right? This is one of the first things I learned all those years ago, is that we have to gather our own data so that we have something that we can rely on and fall back on. And so I just see social media platforms as a way to build my owned data. That's text list and phone number and email list, so that I can contact them. And so in order to do that, it really is talking about problems and showing that what you do and your systems can overcome those problems. I mean, at the end of the day, that's really just it. Problem, solution, and how your framework and methodology overcomes that problem for people, delivering real value. But like, value isn't just giving stuff for free. It's giving, but ensuring that the person on the receiving end has an aha moment or implements it and sees a result. So then how can you optimize that middle of the funnel content where you're speaking to the people that already follow you to ensure that they can actually get value out of it? So an example would be giving them a template that they can use, that they can post, that then they'll get results, or giving them a script word for word so that they know exactly what to say, or giving them the exact recipe, the exact formula, so they can actually go use it right now, see results, and then they're going to be coming back for more. And then the final type is just bottom of the funnel content, which is where you put out offers in order to get people to buy from you. But we can talk about that in more detail. But that's not about building the audience.
Yeah, I think we're good with building the audience now. Let's jump over to like, now we have the audience, selling them stuff. And I want to start with Lara, actually, because this is something that you are doing and have been doing for the last year or so, is taking the audience that you built on LinkedIn first and now other places, and then making money from them. So tell us.
I mean, like I said on our podcast before, I'm a creator first. So I started building just cool things and then gathered a massive audience, understood how to build a community. And then I was like, hey, what do I do? my main focus was always focus on one platform first and then the rest. Because the problem with a lot of people, they try to go omni-channel too quickly. They email list, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok, everything. And focus is one of my most important assets personally. Otherwise, everything's scattered. So it's like, how can I focus on one channel, one offer, one service, and one type of client at least, and one ideal audience member, right? Then I built that. I got up to 40, 50K, gone to Twitter. Okay, now same thing. Grown that to 10K, then grow an email list. Amazing, which saved my life now. And then now that I have validated content that's worked, not on one platform, but on 2 platforms, and then also retained and gathered an audience for like my newsletter, I've converted everything onto YouTube scripts, which are highly entertaining and engaging, and they're also proven because of my LinkedIn content. And this works incredibly well. And now I built all this trust, which actually I took 1 page of Lauren's booklet, and for my second ever cohort launch, I did something different that none of the people in my industry were doing, and that was webinars. Lauren is a webinar addict.
Oh, really?
And then she inducted me into the webinar addiction cult. I started off with LinkedIn Lives. The thing is with LinkedIn, no one has any personality. It's all text. No one can see people. There's like no emotion. The reason why I and so many other creators right now we're growing is because we're tapping into that human element of what it is like to be a home working, to be a Gen Z in business, to be an entrepreneur that's just starting, to trying to going from 6 figures to 7 figures, all of that. And then I put myself on camera as I was launching my second cohort, and then people loved it. They were like, this is amazing. Because you can fake it on text and you can fake it on videos because they're heavily edited. But live, people can ask you questions and actually resonate. You can actually show that you know what you're talking about. And I know what I'm talking about when it comes to personal branding in LinkedIn, and people loved it. So then I funneled everyone, and then I started doing webinars. I did 1 massive webinar, sold like a lot of spots thanks to Lauren. And then the next time I met her, I was like, I love webinars. So yeah, that's how kind of like the funnel for like audience to conversion has worked for me. No status, I didn't have to do any DMs. I haven't had to do any like settings or like hiring anyone to do bookings for me. Everything was inbound and just clicked to buy a high ticket offer, which is amazing.
All right, I want to break this down. We'll come to Lauren. I want to break it down into what to sell, and then we'll talk about how to sell, which is kind of what we're talking about here. So somebody's growing an audience, so maybe we can jump back into your story as we switch to business. How do you decide what you are going to sell to the people in the audience?
Ultimately, what problem are you going to solve? So especially now more than ever, if you're just selling something just for the sake of selling it, it's not going to go anywhere. So nowadays, you really do need to solve a clear, tangible problem for somebody. Most people will know what the right thing is for them to sell. It just comes down to putting together the offer messaging, because if you've built an audience around a certain topic, most naturally you should sell something around that specific topic. So when it comes down to what to sell, that's probably something that those who are listening to this, they probably have an idea of that. And that would be like a long conversation to try and dissect that right now, and maybe a little bit hard without visuals. When it comes to, sorry, what was your second part of the question?
Is how to sell.
Okay, yeah, because the what to sell part is just I really would take too long to try and explain that now. So I think the how to sell is easier, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so when it comes down to how to sell on social media, there's really a couple of key things. Now, I'm a true believer in that you can sell to your actual audience, and you should. Because if you were to put out an offer on your social media platforms right now, if you have even a tiny small audience, you will get inbound requests. When we were just at the event the other day that we ran for our business, there was a girl there that has 1,200 followers. She put the offer out. I gave the copy, the offer messaging that everyone should share.
Which platform?
On Instagram. She has just one, like it's her friends mainly. And she got 20 sales calls booked within 24 hours.
Conversion.
Just from that, that's really good, right? Just with one template that we essentially gave out. And there was another woman there who she sent it to her email list. Did you meet her? Her name is Sue, the book publishing woman.
Yeah.
She has an email list of a really, really small email list. She herself got 24. Okay. So anyway, The reason I share that is because if you just put it out to the audience that you have right now, most people think I have to build this massive audience and only then can I start selling. But at the end of the day, how do you know if you're building the right audience if you don't sell along the way? You don't know. So the point is that when it comes down to selling, if you try and sell something that's different to the audience that you've built, you're going to have a very, very hard time. Now, my belief is just let's keep it really, really simple and let's follow a content cadence across social media. Unlike Lara, I don't follow the strategy that you have to just have one audience on one platform. I actually believe that the asset is the content. And I believe that, yeah, there's tiny tweaks that you need to create in order for it to perform on every single platform. And I think it makes sense for most people to have one platform as their leading platform. But a good piece of short form content is going to be a good piece of short form content on any platform. And so I've seen this for myself across the board where I'll post a reel on Instagram and then I post it on Facebook and then I'll post it on LinkedIn and then I'll post it on Twitter and then I'll type out what I said in the reel and send it to the email list. And it performs well everywhere because it's a good piece of copy. So the asset is the copy, aka what the script says or what the written content says. Now, when it comes to selling, yeah, I mean, I truly believe that you need to build your own audience, which is your own data. So putting out free stuff in order to generate people inbound towards you to opt into a free thing. So what I've done, and I'd say I've done this pretty well, is having a few different webinars which are automated, which when somebody opts in, name, email, phone number, after they opt in, you don't take them straight to the free thing. You take them to a page. We run a sales call booking process, but it could also work if you're selling a different product. Instead of giving them the webinar right then and there, you give them, hey, book a call with us. It's just so simple, one small tweak, but you have a calendar right then and there. And then what ends up happening is they get emailed the free training 20 minutes later. So it gives them time to watch the, hey, book a call thing and actually schedule the call. Now, the reason you opted in the other day, the reason you didn't get it is because you've opted out for my email list. That's why you didn't get it.
Oh.
Yeah. So obviously then people then reply back to you and they're like, hey, I didn't get it. And that's great if they've already opted out, because then they engage back on the conversation with us. So then we can restart the conversation, qualify them, etc. And we actually have installed AI setters in order to do that now. So we don't need to have a team of setters anymore, which has been really, really great.
Okay. I want to, because now we have the discussion about building the audience and then selling stuff, which is kind of like almost maybe two different. We have like the business side, operations and selling, and then we have the audience building. And Lara, you've said before that you're like very much this type of person, the creative building the audience person.
It's always Lauren, by the way, but then she implemented systems into her business. I think Lauren has like a very similar mind to mine, but she has these amazing systems that scaled her businesses so easily, and now she's teaching them to me. But the reason why we're so connected right now is because she sees herself in me, like from 3 years ago, because Lauren and I are marketers at heart. Like, we're creators, we love launching and selling things, but Lauren just understood that in order to build a big business, there needs to be systems and like there needs to be hiring and operations behind all the creative. Otherwise, we're just creating and burning ourselves out. When I met Lauren again 6 months ago, she saw me in the gym, and I was like, how was I? I was like, hi.
She looks so tired.
You
look so tired.
I was in the middle of like my second cohort launch, which was amazing. Like, it's almost 100% profit what I do, and it's all I launch, I sell, and then I have to execute. Obviously, I have to deliver on the fulfillment. But the problem was that I didn't have the systems that she has, so I had to do all the fulfillment myself.
You weren't in the scaling zone.
I wasn't in
the scaling zone.
But
okay, we're going to dig into this. So, would you agree in that like you're similar to Lara, like the person who loves like creating the content, doing the selling, etc., and then not like the
my
ops?
team want to fire me from my business. No, seriously, because I just cause mayhem. So that's why I needed systems. Operations is like hell for me. However, I've got really, really good at it because I needed to, because my business capped out at a certain revenue, and it was a very, it's a good revenue, but I wanted to scale bigger than that because I know, and it was just driving me crazy because I saw loads of people who were not as good as me and my team launching things and generating the clients that we could have otherwise have served. And then they come back to us months later and they're like, oh, I just got scammed by this person. It's just frustrating. Happened to me in fitness. It happened to me in the business model that I'm in now. And so at the end of the day, I said, okay, well, you know what? this is frustrating and I want to be able to serve those clients so that they don't get burnt, but also so that we can generate that revenue. And at the same time, I want to be able to show people that somebody just like me, who is 100% a social media creative person at heart, can actually build a massive business and do it in a way that doesn't burn them out. And so when I shifted my goal away from, I want to hit 10 million a year, to going towards, I want to help 150 business owners generate $1 million in profit this year, that was a goal worth fighting for. And so that also encouraged my team to be inspired as well. So then it became, well, if that's the goal, Lauren, you can't keep running all this stuff, because I am not the one who's going to be able to organize all the operations, make sure we achieve things in time. Like, instead I'll be like, cool, let's launch this campaign today, let's do it tomorrow, and then boom, we're going to create a ton of revenue. And it's just not a good way to run the business. So now I have, a team running everything, but I've had to learn it all along the way, and I can do it all myself. It's just I don't like it.
And so there's one specific person, I believe, who's like your ops COO person.
Yeah.
Can you explain how you found her and how you work together?
Yeah, so she was my client. So she was a really successful business owner herself. She was constantly posting wins, saying, I used this DM sales process and I generated 20K this week, and I used this process and I did this and that. And I had a conversation with her and I said, hey, you're killing it. I have too many leads. Would you be interested in coming in, working the leads in your free time? Because she was running at that time an in-person business, and just doing it on the times where you're not with clients, and you can make some money. And so she said, sure, I would love to, because then I can learn from you, because she wanted to take her business online. And so she came in and did it. And within a matter of weeks, it was just night and day. She had just gone out of her way, made all these systems and everything. I was like, okay, that's interesting. And then, over time, she was able to systematize different areas of the business. She came in and started coaching some of the clients, running some of the consulting. We had a lead gen agency where we were running DM sales for people like Jeremy Miner, Brandon Dawson, who's Grant Cardone's business partner. And she ran that whole division. And she did it very, very successfully. And then I said to her, hey, would you be opposed to considering no longer running your business and coming in and partnering with me? And she said, yeah. And then it's been great ever since then. Obviously, highs, lows, challenging. We've done a lot. And I was definitely lucky that she was willing to actually sacrifice her business to come in and do this, but she saw where we were going. And I told her, look, we are going to get this business to 10 million a year, and you'll be benefiting on the upside of that. And so the comp scheme is aligned with her goals, but at the same time, the lifestyle is aligned with everything that she wants to do, because of course there are a lot of benefits to not running your own business. And great talent sees that. And then if I'm the one that's taking on the risk as the one that's running the business, she gets to just focus on the things that she likes, which is systematizing, hiring great talent, and then leveraging the brand that I've built over the years in my zone of genius, which is marketing.
Yeah, there's so much wisdom in that. First thing is bringing someone on almost like a contract basis so you can test each other out. Mm-hmm. Second is understanding what they want to do. And then third is aligning the incentives between yourself and the person. Sounds awesome. Day to day, how do you work together now? Is she responsible for all of the ops and you're out there selling stuff?
Yeah, so it changes every quarter. So we run the business on a quarterly planning cadence, because when a company is a fast growing company, if you're doing 5-year planning, what's going to be happening in 5 years from now, it's more or less impossible to align that until you get to a certain size, right? When you're a big company, which I think is defined as more than 50 million a year, I believe, then you can think in more long-term horizons. However, it's fast growing at the moment. And so every quarter we sit down and we plan out, what do we want to accomplish over the next quarter? And so what I do is I look at sales, I look at clients and the way that we serve clients. I look at the level of attention that we're getting.
The scale system.
Yeah. The number of leads that we have. That's good research. And then the overall economics of the business. So how profitable are we? Does it make sense? The revenue per employee, the profit per employee. I look across all those different areas. She does, and then so does another partner of ours. And we look across all of that. And then based upon that, we decide, okay, if we were to improve one of these areas of the business right now, which area would significantly improve the entire business as a whole? So right now for us, it's sales. At this exact moment, we have attention dialed in. We have a ton of leads. Our economics is in check. The way we serve clients is awesome. However, we're not happy with the level of sales in which we're generating from the leads that we have. So this quarter has been all about fixing that sales process. So at the moment, she's running sales. At the moment, I'm coaching sales, and then the other partner is running the client success side of things. And so we really just run on what's the constraint in the business. It's the theory of constraint, ultimately. And so whenever we look at what's the constraint in the business, then we double down on whatever that is. And so actually, we've just hired a new operations manager who's going to run operations so that she can elevate and then be more in that strategic coaching mindset, just like I'm in all the time, because at the end of the day, you can hire a pretty good operations manager on a less strategic level who can just run the day-to-day, and then you can have someone who's, like your business partner supporting you on the more strategic stuff, which is what I've just found that we weren't able to like fully utilize her skills and her talent in an operations role when you're simply just running day-to-day. So instead, if she's looking at P&Ls, if she's looking at, where's the constraint in the business and how can we bring on good talent to fix that, then that's ultimately a better skill set. So we really do just focus on what is the constraint. Let's fix that constraint. And then it's kind of methodical now.
What's the constraint in your business at the moment?
One of the things that I really liked about you was like when Lauren has a problem in her business, she goes in the trenches again and fixes it. You had a problem with your sales calls, I think. Yeah. What was it?
We just hired 4 new salespeople and they just weren't closing how I wanted them to,
And then she just went in and fixed it. And then she went in the trenches, just stayed there for like, I don't know, 1 week, like kind of fixing it.
Yeah, that was tiring.
She was
like training, like reviewing calls.
She was just,
I was doing the calls, I was reviewing them. I reviewed every single call.
And then
3 times speed.
I think that is a big lesson for even me and like all business owners, that you can't always be away from the business. You have to go back in and fix it, because then Lauren knew exactly what to do, how to train people, and then how to execute, and then leave.
Yeah. And so we were then able to realize that 2 of those guys were never going to ramp up to where they needed to. They just weren't sticking to script, even though we would tell them stick to script, and they just wouldn't, again and again and again and again. So we had to let them go, because sales at the end of the day is a performance game. 2 of them, though, now they're killing it. They're closing 45%.
How quickly did you realize that you had to fix it, though, between the sales calls not converting and you actually going in and fixing it? What was the time?
3 hours.
I think it's all about like consistent action, right?
If it was something else, I may have left it longer. But when it became aware to me that there was a problem, I knew immediately what to do. Because I've seen that before, right? It's not something where I can wait on that. There's people who are speaking to us about becoming our client. Why would I leave it any longer? There's no reason for me to. And I had a decision in that moment. I said, well, I can either wait until Nor gets back from holiday. She was going away for 8 days. And I can have a chat to her then, or I can just do it. And so I just decided I need to just execute and I need to fix this. And I literally fixed it in a week. But as a business owner, we can do that. Most of the time, if you have this intuitive hit that something isn't right and you know what to do, then there's no reason to wait. But that can only happen, I believe, if you strategically do the quarterly, monthly, weekly planning. So when we know what our goals are for the quarter based upon the theory of constraints and the scale system, which stands for sales, clients, attention, leads, and economics, when we know what our area of focus is over that quarter, then it makes sense. Now, if there was an issue in clients and that wasn't the biggest problem in the business, and this isn't really going to make any difference if I solve it today, tomorrow, or in a quarter, then sure, I'm not going to rush into that. But our problem that quarter was sales. It's still the same quarter now. And actually, next time it's not going to be that. When I do the assessment again in a few weeks, it's going to be a different problem. I don't know what it will be until I do the assessment, but let's see.
Okay, so we covered how to build the audience, how to sell, and now we're talking about like high-level business stuff. The output of all of this is profits. I want to know what we're doing with the cash that you're making.
Yeah, at the moment, I'm heavily reinvesting back into the business. And then, I mean, to be honest, it's not something that I've thought about even this year, just because my goal at the moment is really to scale the business in a way which not everything is falling on me. And I want to minimize the key man risk. So there are seasons in which I think, okay, at this moment, I'm going to think about like my overall portfolio as a whole. And then in some moments, I'm going to think about like my individual main company. So at the moment, honestly, I just haven't even thought about I have not thought about my other investments. I just have, you know, DCAing into various different indexes is very, very, very boring, because as entrepreneurs, we have naturally a very risky lifestyle through running our own business. And if you're the, let's say, sole director of the company, then all the liability falls on top of you. So if that's the area in which you have the risk, then the investments, I've made stupid mistakes where, you know, I've invested 6 figures into companies and then the next thing I know it's gone to zero. I saw you in the gym, like the second time we trained together or something, I'm like, yeah, I just found out that the company I invested in 75K just went to zero. You know? So I learned my lesson. Angel investing is not definitely my skill set, you know?
Makes sense. So we're focused, we have the 10 million goal and we're focused on reinvesting to get there. Final question, most important question in the interview, who can deadlift the most?
Me, right?
No.
How much do you deadlift?
I was just doing 106 kilos for 11 reps just now.
160 kilos?
106. Just now, just
11.
before here.
Oh,
But that was RDLs.
I can do 140.
I don't know I haven't done my 1 rep max test.
Let's do it.
145. That's
Should we
crazy.
do it? No, I don't want to do that. We
On
can
squat, though, she kills me. I don't squat.
On what, sorry?
She squat.
You can do 100.
squats, really?
I don't actually know. I haven't done deadlifts for a while. We should do a competition. That'd be fun.
We'll let you know.
Yeah.
I mean, 145 is pretty big.
That's a lot, yeah. That's what, like triple body weight for you or something?
Yeah.
Lauren and Lara, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank
you for having
me.
us.
Us.